Welcome to English Echo Stories. Today we're sharing the inspiring story of Aaron James, a young boy from a small village who dreams big. Even though life is simple and full of hard work, Aaron's curiosity and love for learning help him grow into a scientist who changes his village for the better. This story shows us how asking questions and never giving up can open doors to a whole new world. So sit back, listen carefully, and let Arun's journey inspire your own English learning adventure. It is early morning in a small village. The air is cool, and the ground is wet from the rain last night. A young boy stands barefoot in the muddy rice field. His feet sink into the soft earth, but he does not move. His eyes are fixed on the sky, watching a flock of white birds flying high and free. His name is Aaron. He is the son of a poor farmer. His family works hard every day, planting and harvesting rice. They earn just enough to buy food and pay for simple needs. For Aaron, the world feels small. Only the fields, the village, in the same routine. But inside Aaron's heart, there is something big. He has questions about everything. Why do the clouds bring rain? How do seeds grow into plants? What makes the birds fly so high? He dreams of finding the answers, even though those dreams feel far away. Sometimes dreams seem too big when your hands are busy with farm work and your pockets are empty. But dreams have a quiet power. They can start small, like a tiny seed, and grow into something strong. One day, Aaron's life will change. He will see a world beyond the fields, a world of science, ideas, and possibilities. But for now, he is just a small boy with a big curiosity. Tomorrow will bring another day in the fields, but today his mind is already reaching beyond the horizon. The village and the boy. Arun's village lay deep in the countryside, far from the noise of any city. From above it looked like a patchwork of green fields stretching all the way to the horizon. In the rainy season, the fields turned into shallow lakes, shining under the sun. In the dry season, the earth cracked and turned brown, waiting for the next rain. The village was small, just a few dozen houses made of wood, bamboo, and tin roofs. The walls were thin, letting in the sound of roosters crowing in the morning and crickets singing at night. Everyone knew everyone. People helped each other during planting time and harvesting time. Arun's father was a farmer, like his father before him. He woke before the sun, when the stars were still bright in the sky, and walked to the fields with a hoe on his shoulder. His skin was dark from years under the sun, and his hands were rough from hard work. His mother woke early too, lighting a small fire to cook rice and vegetables for breakfast. She worked in the fields during the day and took care of the house in the evening. Aaron was their only son. From the time he could walk, he followed his father into the fields. He helped carry water, feed the chickens, and chase away birds that tried to eat the seeds. The work was simple but tiring, yet Aaron's mind was never still. While his father bent over the plants, Aaron's eyes wandered to the sky, the rivers, and the hills far away. He asked endless questions. Why does the rain stop sometimes? Why do the leaves turn yellow? Why do some seeds grow and others die? His father would answer as best as he could, but sometimes he only laughed and said, "That's just the way it is, Arun." His mother too would smile and tell him to keep working. Arun didn't have books to read. The small school in the village had a few old textbooks, but nothing more. Still, he learned by watching. He studied how the buffalo moved slowly through the water, how the ants carried food in a line, how the rice plants swayed with the wind. Without knowing it, he was already thinking like a scientist, observing, wondering, and remembering. In the afternoons after school, Aaron liked to walk to the river. He would sit on a flat stone and watch the fish swim below the surface. He would pick up small pebbles, throw them into the water, and watch the ripples spread. Everything changes when you touch it, he thought. Even water remembers. The other children enjoyed games, but Aaron enjoyed experiments. If he planted two seeds in different spots, he would check which grew faster. If he poured water on one plant and not the other, he would see which one survived. He did not know these were experiments. To him, they were just games of curiosity. Life in the village was slow. Every day followed the same rhythm. Wake before sunrise, work in the fields, eat, rest, sleep. People accepted life as it was, but Arun felt a quiet restlessness. He wondered what lay beyond the hills. He had heard stories about cities, big schools, and machines, but they felt as far away as the moon. Sometimes, at night, he would lie on the bamboo mat, listening to the crickets outside, and imagine himself wearing a white coat, looking through a microscope, or working in a place full of strange machines. Then he would hear his father coughing from the day's work, and reality would return. Still, the dream remained in his heart. One afternoon, something unusual happened. Arun was sitting under the big tamarind tree near the school when he saw a stranger walking toward the building. The man was tall, wearing glasses and carrying a bag full of books. His clothes were simple, but his eyes were bright, as if they carried a secret. This man was a traveling teacher, and his visit would be the first spark that would change Aaron's life forever. The traveling teacher. The school in Aaron's village was nothing more than a single square room. The walls were made of bamboo, the roof of rusted tin. Inside there were a few broken wooden chairs and one old chalkboard, its surface scratched and faded from years of use. The windows had no glass, just open spaces where the wind and sunlight came in. Most days the lessons were short and simple. The village teacher did her best, but there were no new books, no maps, no science equipment. The children memorized words and numbers, but there was little room for imagination. That day, everything felt different. A stranger had come to the school, a man in his late 40s, with gentle eyes and a smile that made you feel he was listening even before you spoke. His name was Mr. Rafi. He was a traveling teacher, moving from one small village to another, bringing lessons and stories the children had never heard before. When Mr. Rafi began to speak, the room grew quiet. He told the children about the world beyond the hills, about cities with tall buildings that touched the clouds, trains that ran faster than water buffalo could run, and airplanes that flew higher than the birds Aaron loved to watch. He told them about people who studied the stars, invented machines, and discovered cures for diseases. These people are called scientists, he explained. They ask questions about the world, just like you ask questions about the fields, the rain, and the birds. And then they search for answers. Aaron's eyes widened. It felt like the roof of the small classroom had lifted away, and above it stretched a sky full of possibilities. He imagined himself walking in a place full of strange devices, looking through a microscope, talking to people who understood his questions. Mr. Raffi drew a simple diagram on the chalkboard, a picture of the water cycle. He explained how clouds formed, why rain fell, and how rivers flowed back to the sea. Aaron listened closely, nodding. He had seen all these things, but now they had names and reasons. It was as if the world had started speaking a language he could understand. At the end of the lesson, the children crowded around Mr. Raffi, curious about the bag he carried. Inside were books, some with colorful pictures, others old and faded. The other children grabbed the bright ones, but Arun stood quietly, waiting. Mr. Raffi noticed him. "You've been listening carefully," he said. "Do you like science?" "Yes," Arun replied shyly, "but I don't have any books." Mr. Raffi reached deep into his bag and pulled out a thin, worn-out science book. The cover was torn and the pages were yellow, but the drawings inside showed seeds, plants, the sun, the moon, and even machines Aaron had never seen before. "This book has been with me for many years," Mr. Raffi said, placing it in Aaron's hands. "It's simple, but if you read it well, it will teach you how to see the world differently." Arun held the book as if it were a treasure. He could almost feel the knowledge inside it, waiting to be discovered. "Remember," Mr. Raffi continued, "science is not only in books or big cities. It's here in the soil, the sky, the water. Look closely, and you will find it everywhere." That afternoon, after the lesson ended, Arun walked home slowly, holding the book tightly to his chest. The rice fields looked the same as always. The buffalo moved slowly through the mud, and the sun shone on the water. But to Arun, everything seemed different. It was as if the world had opened a small door, and he had just stepped through. Nights with the book. That evening, after finishing his chores, Arun sat on the floor of the small wooden house. The sound of crickets filled the night. In the middle of the room, a kerosene lamp flickered, casting a soft orange glow on the walls. His parents were already lying down, tired from the day's work. Aaron opened the science book Mr. Raffi had given him. The pages smelled old, and the paper felt rough under his fingers. He turned to the first chapter. It was about seeds. The words were simple for some sentences, but others felt like puzzles. He whispered them slowly, his lips shaping each sound. When he met a word he didn't understand, he would stare at the picture next to it. Sometimes he took a small stick and drew the picture in the dirt on the floor. If the book said roots, he drew lines spreading under the ground. If it said sprout, he drew a tiny plant pushing upward. Night after night, he returned to the book. The more he read, the more the world began to make sense. He learned that soil needed certain things to help plants grow: water, sunlight, and something called nutrients. He read about how rain came from clouds, and clouds came from water in the rivers and seas. He even learned how to measure time with the position of the sun, but reading was not enough for Aaron. The book had a section about experiments. It said that a scientist does not just read, he tests ideas to see if they are true. Aaron decided he would do the same. One afternoon, instead of planting all the rice seeds in the same way as his father did, he kept a small handful for himself. He planted them in different spots, some in wetter soil, some in drier soil. He tried planting some deeper in the ground and some closer to the surface. He took notes just like the book showed. On a piece of scrap paper, he drew tiny boxes and wrote short words: deep, shallow, wet, dry. Every day he checked the seeds and marked what happened. At first his father laughed. "Why waste time? Just plant them the way we always do," he said, shaking his head. But when Arun explained he was learning something, his father simply smiled and let him try. "As long as you don't forget the real work," he said. Weeks passed. Some of Aaron's seeds sprouted quickly. Others took longer. A few never grew at all. He noticed patterns. The ones in moist soil grew stronger. The ones too deep took longer to reach the sunlight. Slowly, his notes filled with small discoveries. At night under the lamp, he compared his results with the pictures in the book. He felt a quiet excitement, like he was speaking directly with nature and it was answering back. The darkness outside seemed less heavy when he had the book open. Even though the lamp was small, it felt like it pushed back the shadows in the room. The more Arun learned, the more he wanted to know. Sometimes he stayed awake so long that the lamp's flame began to shrink, warning him the oil was almost gone. His parents noticed the change in him. His mother saw the way he handled the plants now, gently as if each was precious. His father began asking small questions. "Which spot do you think will give the best harvest?" Arun answered with confidence. Life in the village went on as usual, but Arun's nights were no longer ordinary. Each evening was a step into a larger world. Each word he understood was like finding a small treasure. He could not have known that soon. Everything he had learned from the book would be tested. The skies would dry, the rains would stop, and the fields that fed his family would begin to wither. The drought. The rainy season should have come by now. Every year, thick clouds rolled over the hills, bringing heavy showers that soaked the fields. The rain filled the ponds, softened the earth, and gave life to the rice plants. But this year, the clouds passed without stopping. Days turned into weeks, and still no rain came. The air grew hotter. The soil in the fields cracked like broken pottery. The rice plants bent under the sun, their green fading into a weak yellow. The villagers began to worry. Without water, the crops would fail. Without crops, there would be no food, and no money to buy it from other places. Arun watched his father pacing near the field, his face tight with worry. "If the rain doesn't come soon," his father said one evening, "we will lose everything this season." Aaron felt a knot in his stomach. The book Mr. Raffi had given him lay open on the floor. He flipped through the pages until he found a section about keeping moisture in the soil. The picture showed farmers using simple methods to save water, covering the ground with straw, digging small trenches to guide water, and building containers to catch rain when it did fall. He looked at the drawings, then out at the fields. His mind began to race. The next morning, Aaron told his father, "I think I can help. It might not save all the plants, but maybe we can save some." His father raised an eyebrow. "You're only a boy, Aaron. This is no game." "I know," Aaron said quietly, "but I want to try." With his father's reluctant permission, Aaron began his work. He collected dry bamboo from the edge of the village and cut it into hollow tubes. He dug small channels between the rows of rice, using the bamboo tubes to guide what little water they had to the weakest plants. From the back of the house, he found old clay pots his mother no longer used. He placed them in the ground near the plants, filling them with water so it could slowly seep into the soil. He covered the wet ground with dried leaves and straw, just as the book suggested, to keep the sun from stealing the moisture too quickly. For days, Arun worked under the hot sun. The other children played in the shade, but he kept going, his clothes sticking to his back, his hands blistered from digging. It wasn't perfect. Some plants were already too far gone to save, but in certain patches of the field, the rice stayed green when everything around it turned yellow. One evening, his father stood at the edge of the field, looking at the difference. The green patches shone against the dying crop. He touched one of the plants and turned to Aaron. "Maybe there is something to these ideas of yours," he said slowly. It was the first time his father's voice carried not just surprise, but respect. The drought lasted another month. The harvest was small, but thanks to Aaron's work, they had more than some of their neighbors. The family had enough rice to last until the next planting season. When the rains finally came, the whole village celebrated. The ponds filled, the fields softened, and life began to return to normal. But for Aaron, something had changed forever. He had seen his ideas work in the real world. He had seen knowledge from a book turn into action that saved food for his family. That night, lying on his mat, listening to the sound of rain on the roof, he felt his dream grow stronger. He no longer just wanted to read about science. He wanted to study it for real. The big decision, the evening sky was turning orange. Smoke from cooking fires curled into the air, carrying the smell of rice and vegetables. Aaron sat quietly outside his home, the old science book in his lap. He was not reading this time. He was thinking. The drought had ended. The fields were green again, but something inside him had changed. Every time he looked at the plants, he remembered the bamboo pipes, the pots, the water he had saved. He remembered how his father's eyes softened when the first green shoots appeared after the long weeks of dryness. He wanted more moments like that. That night after dinner, he spoke. "Father, Mother, I want to go to the city. I want to study science for real." His father's hand stopped halfway to his mouth. The small tin cup of tea trembled slightly. "The city?" His voice was heavy. "Aaron, we don't have money for that. And the city is not like here. It's crowded. It's dangerous. You are safe here." Aaron's heart beat faster. "I know, but here I can only learn so much. I want to know more. About seeds, about water, about the earth. If I learn more, maybe I can help the village even more than during the drought." His father frowned. "Books won't fill our stomachs." The room was quiet except for the sound of the small oil lamp flickering. His mother looked at Arun for a long moment. Then she spoke softly. "Do you remember the drought?" she asked her husband. "Do you remember how close we were to losing everything? And how this boy," she placed her hand on Aaron's shoulder, "found a way to save some of our crops? Where do you think he learned that?" "From the same book he's holding now." His father's eyes went to the book. The cover was faded. The pages were torn at the edges. But to Arun, it was as valuable as gold. "You have a good mind," his mother continued. "It would be a waste to let it stay locked in this village. Let him try." His father said nothing for a long time. The only sound was the soft chirping of crickets outside. Finally he sighed. "Even if I agreed, how will we pay for school in the city? We have no savings." There was another silence. Then Arun's mother looked at his father, her eyes firm. "We can sell the old cow." Arun's father's head snapped up. "The cow? But she gives us milk." "She is old," his mother said gently. "Her milk is less every year. We can sell her now while she still has value. And the money will pay for Aaron's travel and the first school fees. After that, we will find a way." His father looked at Aaron, then at his wife. His shoulders slumped, as if the decision was too heavy for him. "You want to go so badly, Aaron?" "Yes, father," Aaron said, his voice steady. "I will work hard. I will not waste the chance." The next day they took the cow to the market. Aaron walked beside his father in the early morning mist, holding the rope tied around the cow's neck. His father did not speak much, but sometimes he patted the cow gently, as if saying goodbye. At the market, the cow was sold to another farmer from a nearby village. The coins clinked in his father's hand. Aaron saw his father's jaw tighten. Selling the cow was not just about money, it was giving up a piece of their life. Back home, his mother wrapped the coins in a cloth and hid them carefully. "This will take you to the city," she said to Aaron. "And this," she touched his forehead, "will keep you there." In the days that followed, the village buzzed with news. "Aaron is going to the city." Some people smiled and wished him luck. Others shook their heads. "He will forget us. The city will change him." Aaron packed his few belongings: 2 shirts, 1 pair of trousers, a small blanket, and the science book from Mr. Raffi. His mother folded the clothes neatly. His father found a small bag made from old cloth and patched it for the journey. On the morning of his departure, the sky was still dark when they walked to the bus stop. The road was dusty, the air cool. Other villagers were there too, sending off relatives. Aaron held his bag in one hand and the book in the other. The bus arrived with a loud growl, its engine coughing black smoke. It was already crowded. Chickens clucked in baskets, and people shouted to one another over the noise. His father put a hand on Arun's shoulder. "Remember where you come from," he said. "Do not lose your way in the big city." His mother hugged him tightly. "Write to us. And learn, Arun. Learn as much as you can." Arun climbed onto the bus, squeezing between people until he found a small space near the window. He looked out and saw his parents standing side by side. His mother was smiling, but her eyes were wet. His father stood straight, his hands behind his back, his face unreadable. The bus started moving. Aaron waved until they disappeared from view. He sat back, filling the rough seat beneath him, the book still pressed to his chest. Outside, the fields rolled past, then small towns, then the unknown road ahead. He was leaving everything familiar behind, but he carried with him a dream, the sacrifice of his parents, and the hope that somewhere in the city answers to his questions were waiting. Life in the city. The bus ride to the city had been long and dusty. Aaron pressed his forehead to the glass, watching the green fields fade into concrete and smoke. The noise grew louder with every mile, honking horns, shouting vendors, the constant rumble of engines. When the bus stopped, the air smelled of fuel and fried food. Arun's uncle met him at the station and led him through streets that seemed to move in every direction at once. People rushed past, speaking in fast voices he couldn't follow. He clutched his small bag and the old science book to his chest. afraid to lose either. The school was bigger than his whole village. The first time he stepped into the classroom, Arun froze. The desks were smooth and polished. The walls were covered in posters of planets, human anatomy, and famous scientists. His classmates wore clean uniforms and spoke English easily. When the teacher asked a question, Aaron knew the answer in his own language, but the words in English would not come. He stayed quiet. A few students glanced at him and whispered. That first week, he walked back to his uncle's small room each evening with heavy feet. The science lessons moved too fast. English grammar felt like a maze. The words danced in his mind, but he couldn't catch them. At night, he opened his old science book, reading the faded pages by the dim light of a single bulb. It felt like talking to an old friend who understood him. His classmates noticed his accent and sometimes laughed when he mispronounced words. The sting of their laughter made his face hot, but he remembered the farm. Seeds did not grow in a day. You had to plant them, water them, wait. So Aaron decided to wait, but also to work. He began to listen closely to how people spoke. He copied phrases into a notebook, practicing the sounds quietly when no one was looking. In the evenings, he went to the library instead of going straight home. The library smelled of paper and quiet, and the tall shelves were like a forest of stories. At first, the English books were too hard, but Aaron refused to give up. He started with children's science books, the kind with pictures and simple words. As weeks passed, he moved to thicker ones. He learned new experiments, read about people who had failed many times before they succeeded, and discovered that even the greatest scientists had once been learners. Slowly, things began to change. He raised his hand in class once, his voice shaking, and the teacher nodded with approval. A boy who had laughed at him before now asked to borrow his notes. A girl invited him to join a group project. Aaron found himself speaking more, even making small jokes in English. The city still felt strange, but science made it feel familiar. In every corner, he saw problems waiting for solutions. Traffic lights that didn't work, drains that overflowed when it rained, gardens that could grow on rooftops. His curiosity began to push away his fear. One evening, as he was returning a stack of library books, he noticed a poster on the wall. City Science Fair, open to all students. Show your invention. Win a scholarship. Aaron's heart beat faster. A scholarship could mean less burden on his parents, more time to study, and a step closer to his dream. But the thought of competing against city students with better English and more resources made his stomach twist. He stared at the poster for a long time. He remembered the drought in the village, the bamboo pipes, the saved crops. He remembered the feeling of seeing water flow where there had been dust. Maybe, he thought, this was his chance to show that even a village boy with faded pages could have ideas worth listening to. The science fair. The notice appeared on the school board one Monday morning. Science fair. 4 weeks from now. Show your project. Show your thinking. Show your future. Most students cheered. Some ran straight to the lab to look for ideas. Aaron just stood there, clutching his bag. A science fair. Back in his village, the only fair he had known was the yearly harvest festival with goats, sweet fried bread, and the sound of drums. This one was different. That afternoon, his classmates were already busy making plans. Ramesh, whose father owned a hardware store, was going to build a robot arm. Anita had ordered a kit online to grow crystals under different conditions. Others were talking about solar panels, electric cars, and drones. Arun had none of that. No kit, no store, no extra money. But he had something else. Years of watching plants, soil, and rain. And he had his old science book, the one that had started it all. That night, sitting at his narrow hostel desk, he turned the pages again. The section on water conservation caught his eye. He thought about the drought back home, the bamboo channels, the pots buried near roots to keep water from evaporating. Maybe that could be his project. The next day, he spoke to the science teacher, Mrs. Fernandez. Can I use natural materials, like bamboo, clay pots, and sand? Mrs. Fernandez looked surprised. Of course, it's about ideas, not cost. But remember, you must show how it works scientifically. Aaron nodded. I can do that. Over the next weeks, he collected materials from a scrapyard and a local market. A broken piece of bamboo cost almost nothing. An old clay pot was chipped, but still good. Some rope, sand, and an empty tin can completed his list. Every evening after finishing homework, he worked in the corner of the hostel courtyard. Some boys teased him. Hey, farmer boy, making a water toy? But he ignored them. He measured, cut, and tied pieces together carefully. His design was simple. Bamboo pipes carried water from a container to the roots of plants. The clay pots, buried halfway in soil, slowly released water underground. A tin can at the top caught rain and directed it into the bamboo pipe. It wasn't beautiful, but it worked. He tested it with small plants in plastic bottles cut in half. They stayed green even after 3 days without extra water. The day of the fair, the school courtyard was unrecognizable. Colorful banners fluttered in the morning breeze. Tables were neatly lined in rows, each holding a project. Shiny solar panels glinted in the sun. A small drone buzzed above one table. Some displays had posters printed in bright colors, explaining electromagnetic levitation and AI-powered plant care. Aaron's table looked plain in comparison. A bamboo pipe, a pot, and 2 green plants. His poster was hand-drawn with black marker, the letters a little uneven. When the fair began, parents, students, and teachers walked around, stopping to ask questions. At first, hardly anyone came to his table. Then a group of younger students paused. What is this, Bhaiya? One asked. Arun smiled. It's a low-cost irrigation system. It helps farmers save water. The pot releases water slowly, so plants get just enough. Even in a drought, they can survive longer. The boy's eyes widened. Does it really work? Aaron pointed to the 2 plants. This one was watered every day. This one hasn't been watered for 3 days. The pot kept it alive. They whispered to each other and nodded. Cool, and ran off. By afternoon, more people stopped to listen. A teacher from another school asked, how much would it cost to make one for a small farm? Less than the price of one lunch in the city, Aaron said. Mrs. Fernandez brought the judges to his table. They listened, asked questions, and examined the plants. Aaron answered each question clearly, his voice steady. When the results were announced in the evening, he stood at the edge of the crowd, his hands in his pockets. Third prize went to a solar-powered water purifier. First prize went to the crystal growth experiment. It was dazzling under the lights. Second prize goes to Aaron James for his low-cost irrigation model. Aaron froze for a moment, then stepped forward to receive a small silver medal and a certificate. The applause felt warm, but the medal wasn't the only thing waiting for him. As the crowd began to leave, a man in a gray suit walked up to him. He had kind eyes and carried a leather briefcase. "You're Aaron?" he asked. "Yes, sir. I'm Professor Mara from the university. Your project, very clever. Practical science. Have you thought about studying agricultural engineering?" Aaron hesitated. "It's my dream, sir. But my family." He didn't finish the sentence. The professor smiled. "Dreams are important. Sometimes they just need a little help to grow. Come see me next week. I may know of a scholarship for someone like you." Becoming a scientist. Years passed quickly for Aaron. The city school became a memory, and university opened a whole new world. He studied agricultural science, the subject he loved most. His days were full of lectures, experiments, and late nights in the library. Life was not easy. Aaron worked part-time in a small cafe to help pay his tuition and buy books. Sometimes he was tired. Sometimes he felt far from home. But he never forgot the village fields or the dusty path he had walked as a boy. At university, Aaron learned new words and new ideas. Words like photosynthesis, soil erosion, and sustainable farming. He read textbooks thicker than his father's arm and did experiments with machines he had only seen in pictures before. But Arun did not study only for himself. He remembered the farmers who struggled without enough water, the families who lost crops during the drought, and the children who watched birds in the sky like he once did. During summer breaks, Arun traveled back to villages, not just his own, but many others. He carried books and simple tools. He met farmers, listened to their problems, and taught them what he had learned. He showed them how to build low-cost irrigation systems using local materials. He explained how changing the way they planted could save water and increase crops. Slowly, the villages changed. Aaron's research papers were published in journals. Scientists from different countries read his work. Invitations came to speak at conferences and workshops. The barefoot boy standing in the muddy field had become a man with knowledge that others respected. Still, Aaron never lost his humility. At every conference, he told the story of the drought, the old science book, and the traveling teacher who believed in him. He said, "I am here because someone gave me a chance, and because I never stopped asking questions." He remembered the nights reading by the kerosene lamp, the small experiments with seeds and water, and the long bus rides to the city. These memories were his roots. They kept him strong. Becoming a scientist was more than a job or a title. It was a way to give back, to help others dream bigger, just as someone had helped him. Coming home. After many years of study, hard work, and travel, Aaron finally returned to his village. The bus rolled slowly along the familiar dusty road. The fields stretched green and wide beneath a bright sky. But now there was something new. Bamboo pipes glistened in the sun, carrying water gently through the earth. Small gardens flourished where once dry soil cracked. As the bus stopped, Aaron stepped down, holding his bag and his science notes. His heart beat fast. There, waiting by the roadside, were his parents. Time had touched their faces. His father's hair was streaked with gray. His mother's smile was softer, but no less warm. Tears filled his mother's eyes when she saw him. "Aaron, our boy is home!" she cried, hugging him tightly. His father shook his hand firmly, pride shining in his gaze. Aaron looked around at the village he had left behind. The simple houses, the school with peeling paint, the wide open fields. But he also saw hope. The irrigation systems he had helped design now covered many farms. Crops were stronger, and the village had learned to save water and protect the soil. The villagers gathered to welcome him. Children he once knew as babies now came running with wide eyes. In the small village school, Aaron stood before the classroom filled with eager faces. He told them stories, stories of hard work, learning, and dreams that grow one small step at a time. He spoke slowly and clearly, encouraging the children to never stop asking questions. "Your village may be small," he said, "but your mind is big. You can learn English, you can study science, and you can change your world." The sun began to set, painting the sky with soft colors. Aaron looked out at the fields where he had once stood barefoot. Now he was a man with a mission to bring knowledge and hope to every corner of the earth, starting here. Thank you for listening to English Echo Stories. Every story is a small step to better English and a better you. Keep practicing, keep dreaming, and I'll see you in the next story.